Kehlani, at 25 years old, had everything anyone could dream of. She was the only daughter of Mr. James and Mrs. Laura Kehlani, one of the wealthiest families in the country. Her father owned a large empire of companies, while her mother was a renowned realtor. Chloe had grown up in luxury, surrounded by expensive cars, grand mansions, and all the finest things money could buy. However, despite all the riches, Chloe felt something was missing. People around Chloe always seemed more interested in her family's fortune than in her as a person. She had friends, but over time, she realized they cared more about her lifestyle. The men she dated were the same, interested in her wealth and status, but never her heart. Chloe longed to be loved for who she truly was, not for her family's wealth. One evening, after a particularly shallow conversation with a man her father had introduced her to, Chloe knew something had to change. This man, like so many others, was more interested in impressing her with his wealth than learning anything about her. Chloe decided that she needed to leave her life of privilege behind, at least for a little while. She wanted to experience the world outside her bubble, to live simply, and discover if she could find love in a place where no one knew her background. Before she made any drastic decisions, Chloe sat down with her parents to discuss her plan. "I've been thinking about something for a while," Chloe began, her heart racing. "I want to leave the city for some time. I need time to find myself away from everything here." Her mother, Mrs. Laura, immediately frowned. "You're a young woman. The world outside is harsh, especially for a girl like you. You don't need to go anywhere. We can find you a good husband here, someone who will love and care for you." Chloe sighed, knowing her mother wouldn't understand. "But that's the problem, Mom. All the men I meet are only interested in what I have, not in me. I want to live a simple life and find someone who loves me for who I am." Chloe looked at her father, hoping for support. Mr. James, a stern but thoughtful man, had been listening quietly. "I won't be gone forever," Chloe said. "I just need some time to figure things out. If I don't find what I'm looking for, if I can't find love on my own, I'll come back and I'll marry the man you want me to marry." Her father raised an eyebrow. "You mean the tech billionaire Nathan, who you have adamantly refused to meet?" "Yes," Chloe nodded. "I'll meet him eventually, but first I need to do this." Mr. James leaned back in his chair, considering his daughter's words. He loved Chloe dearly, and as much as he wanted her to marry someone powerful like Nathan, he understood her need for independence. He had seen her frustration over the years trying to find someone who valued her for more than her wealth. Mr. James gave Chloe a small nod of approval. "If this is what you need to do, then I'll support you. I don't want you to regret not trying to find your own path." He turned to his wife. "She's strong, Laura. We have to trust her." Mrs. Laura sighed, still uneasy. "Fine, but promise me you'll be careful." "I will, Mom," Chloe said with a smile. The next day, with her father's reluctant blessing and her mother's worried gaze, Chloe left the city. She boarded a bus to a faraway place, hoping to start fresh. The city she chose was Demora, a small but bustling town. It was a place where no one would recognize her as the wealthy heiress from the capital. When Chloe arrived in Demora, she found a small, one-room apartment to rent. It was nothing like the mansion she had grown up in, but it was enough for her. There were no luxuries, no servants to cater to her every need. But for the first time in her life, Chloe felt free. Now that she was settled, Chloe knew she needed to find a job. She couldn't live off her family's wealth if she truly wanted to experience life as an ordinary person. After walking around the streets of Demora for a few days, she came across a small restaurant called Jay's Kitchen. Chloe walked inside and asked Mama Jay, the owner, if she had any job openings. She looked Chloe over, noticing her neat but modest clothes, and asked a few questions. Satisfied with Chloe's answers, Mama Jay decided to give her a chance. "We can use another waitress around here," Mama Jay said. "But it's tough work. Do you think you can handle it?" Chloe smiled, determined to prove herself. "Yes, I can handle it. I'll do my best." And so Chloe began her new life as a waitress at Jay's Kitchen. The work was much harder than she had ever imagined. Her back ached, and her hands became rough from the constant cleaning. But despite the exhaustion, Chloe found a sense of purpose in this simple life. As Chloe continued working at Jay's kitchen, her life began to settle into a routine. However, everything changed one evening when Adam, the kind construction worker she had gotten to know over the past few weeks, asked her out on a date. It had been a long day at the diner, and Chloe was busy cleaning up when Adam, with his usual warm smile, approached her. "Hey, Chloe," he said, casually leaning against the counter. "I was wondering, would you like to have dinner with me sometime? I know a quiet spot by the river." Chloe's heart raced. She had grown fond of Adam's company over the past few weeks. He seemed genuine, down to earth, and different from the men she had known back in her old life. There was no pretense, no showy displays of wealth, just simple, honest conversations. Smiling, she agreed. "I'd love that." Their first few dates were wonderful. Adam took her to quiet, simple places where they could talk, laugh, and enjoy each other's company. Chloe felt herself opening up to him, thinking that maybe she had finally found the love she was looking for here in this small town with a man who didn't know she was an heiress. It seemed possible. But as the weeks went by, Chloe began to notice small troubling signs in her relationship with Adam. It started with him borrowing small amounts of money. "Hey, Chloe, could you lend me a little cash? I've got an urgent bill to pay, and my paycheck got delayed," he said casually one evening. At first, Chloe didn't think much of it, but then it happened again and again. Each time, Adam had a reason, a broken tool, an unexpected expense, or a favor he needed to return. The amounts were small at first, but they quickly added up. Chloe found herself dipping into her savings more and more, but she didn't want to think the worst. After all, Adam didn't know she was wealthy. He couldn't possibly be using her for money. However, as time passed, Chloe started noticing other things. Adam often spoke about how she could aim higher in life, hinting that she should be doing more than just working at the diner. "You're smart, Chloe," he said one afternoon as they sat by the river. "Why settle for waitressing? You could be doing bigger things." The way he said it made her feel uneasy, as though he knew something about her that he wasn't saying. Chloe brushed it off at first, thinking he just wanted to motivate her, but the nagging feeling in her chest grew stronger with each passing day. Then came the afternoon that shattered her world. It was a quiet day at the diner, and Chloe had just finished her shift. She was walking out the back when she saw Adam leaning against the wall, talking on his phone. He didn't notice her approach, so she stopped, curious to hear what he was saying. "Yeah, man, it's going well," Adam said, his voice low but confident. "I'm close to getting more out of her. I'm telling you." Guy calmed down. "You know, these rich kids can be spoiled. Imagine the heiress to the Kehlani empire pretending to be poor," he added with a loud laugh. Chloe froze in place. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Adam knew who she was all along. He had followed her to Demora. Tears filled Chloe's eyes. Every moment they had shared, every conversation, every smile, it was all a lie. Adam hadn't cared about her as Chloe the waitress. He had only seen her as Chloe Kehlani, the rich heiress he had known all along and had used her just like the others. With her heart shattered, Chloe stepped forward, her voice trembling with anger. "So this was your plan all along?" Adam turned sharply, his eyes wide with shock. "I heard everything. You knew who I was, and you follow me here just to use me." Adam opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The guilt on his face was enough for Chloe to know the truth without waiting for an explanation. She turned and walked away, her tears flowing freely. She had trusted him and believed that she had found something real, but it had all been a facade. Adam had been playing her from the very beginning. That night, Chloe made a decision. She couldn't stay in Dumore any longer. The town had become tainted by the betrayal she had suffered. She needed to go somewhere even more remote, somewhere where no one would find her, and where she could truly start over. She packed her things, her heart heavy with disappointment, and called her parents. Her mother answered first, her voice filled with concern. "Chloe, darling, are you all right? You haven't called in a while." "I'm fine, Mom," Chloe said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But I need more time. I'm leaving Dumore. I need space." Her mother, sensing something was wrong, began to protest. "Chloe, You're a young woman. We can send someone to... I'll be fine, Chloe interrupted. I'll keep in touch, but not as often. Please don't worry about me. I just need to figure things out on my own. Her father, who had been listening quietly in the background, spoke up. We trust you, Chloe. But remember, you can always come home. You don't have to do this alone. Chloe sighed, her heart aching with both sadness and gratitude. I know. Dad, I'll be okay. And with that, Chloe ended the call. She was determined to move forward, to find herself once again in a place where no one knew her past. She didn't know where her journey would take her, but one thing was certain. She would never let anyone take advantage of her again. With her heart still heavy from disappointment, Chloe decided to move to a rural village far from the hustle and bustle of the city. The village she chose was small and quiet, with dusty roads, simple houses, and a slower pace of life. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where the biggest excitement was market day, and where strangers were noticed. Chloe was sure that no one here would know about her past, her family, or the riches she had left behind. She had become skilled at keeping her identity hidden, and in this village, she could start over once again. After settling into a modest room she rented from an old widow, Chloe decided she needed to find a job. Her savings were running low, and she wanted to earn her way like any ordinary person. As she walked through the village one sunny afternoon, she passed a small supermarket and noticed a handwritten sign in the window, "Sales Girl Needed." It seemed like the perfect opportunity. Without hesitation, Chloe walked inside and asked the shopkeeper if the job was still available. The shopkeeper, a middle-aged man with a friendly smile, introduced himself as Mr. Peter. He asked a few simple questions about her experience and background. Chloe, sticking to her story, told him she had finished secondary school and had worked odd jobs in other towns before arriving here. Mr. Peter seemed satisfied with her answers and hired her on the spot. "You can start tomorrow," he said, handing her an apron. "It's nothing too hard, just stocking shelves, helping customers, and keeping the place tidy." Chloe thanked him and left the supermarket feeling relieved. This was exactly what she needed, a simple job in a quiet village far away from the painful memories of Adam. The next morning, she arrived at the supermarket, ready to begin her new role. That's where she met Avery. Avery was the other salesgirl at the supermarket. She was easy to talk to, and as they worked side by side, they shared stories about their lives. Chloe told Juliet that she was an orphan who had only completed secondary school, carefully sticking to her fabricated story. She didn't want anyone here to know who she really was, not after what had happened in the past. Avery, in turn, shared her dreams and hopes with Chloe. Avery was sweet, but it was clear that she had her sights set on finding a way out of the village. She talked often about meeting a man who would change her life, someone who could offer her the luxury and comfort she longed for. Chloe, on the other hand, was running away from that very life, but she understood why Avery dreamed of escaping poverty. The days at the supermarket passed quietly, and Chloe felt a sense of peace working alongside Avery, listening to the village gossip and learning about the customers who came in regularly. But that peace didn't last long. One afternoon, Chloe had just finished her shift at the supermarket and was walking down the road. She noticed a group of boys playing football nearby, their game spilling onto the street. Before she could react, the ball soared through the air, heading straight for her. Just as she braced herself, a man rushed toward her, intending to push her out of the ball's path. But in his rush, he ended up swaying her right into his arms. Chloe found herself pressed against his chest, and when she looked up, her breath caught in her throat. The man who had caught her was tall, dark-skinned, and incredibly well-built. His handsome face was framed with deep concern. They stood frozen, their eyes locked. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice deep and gentle, his arms still around her. Chloe nodded slowly. "I think so," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The man smiled, his face softening as he released her. "I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to catch you like that, but I didn't want you to get hit." Chloe, still slightly dazed from the encounter, smiled back. "Thank you. I didn't see the ball coming." After a brief pause, the man extended his hand. "I'm David, by the way. Chloe couldn't stop thinking about David. There was something about the way he had swooped in to help her. His eyes made her feel at ease. She didn't know much about him, but something told her she would be seeing him again, and she was right. Over the next few weeks, Chloe and David began crossing paths more often, whether by coincidence or fate. They quickly fell into a comfortable routine of talking whenever they ran into each other. David told her that he was a construction worker, and like many men in the village, he worked hard to make ends meet. He wasn't wealthy, but that didn't matter to Chloe. He had a warm heart, and in his presence, Chloe felt safe and happy. For the first time in a long time, she felt something genuine, something that had nothing to do with wealth, status, or family expectations. And that was enough. David sat back in the small, cozy hotel room, the best one in the village. It wasn't much by city standards, but it was clean and comfortable, and that was enough for him. He could hear the faint sounds of people outside, but his mind was far away, lost in thoughts of Chloe. He smiled to himself as he thought about her, the way their paths had crossed unexpectedly, the way she had fallen into his arms that day when he tried to shield her from the football. He hadn't expected to meet someone like her when he first arrived in the village. In fact, he hadn't expected much at all when he took on the project. This was supposed to be a short-term escape from the pressure of city life, a way to get away from his parents' endless discussions about his future. But Chloe had changed everything. What Chloe didn't know was that David wasn't just any ordinary construction worker. He was actually Nathan Levine, a self-made tech billionaire from one of the wealthiest families in the country.